Hey everybody, Steve Dawson here, and up for grabs this month is this wicked little Premiere Twin-8. It's a two 8-inch speaker. It's about somewhere between 8 and 15 watts. It's a little hard to say exactly. I'm not super up on the technical business. It's a fairly quiet amp. It's amazing for studio work, small club gigs, playing around the house, playing in an apartment. You won't get thrown out. And Premiere was made by the Multivox Corporation in New York City in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. They originally, I believe, it's a little hard to tell what was going on with them, but I believe they were importing instruments and also licensing instruments, and eventually they began to manufacture instruments out of their factory in New Jersey, I think. They had a whole brand called Premiere that was amps and guitars. The guitars are really cool. I don't have one. I have a few Premiere amps and I love them. They're unique sounding. Some of them kind of sound comparable to some of the 50s Fender Tweed kind of amps, which you'll hear. I think this one sounds kind of like a Tweed Princeton, kind of reminds me of that vibe. But it does have two 8s, and to my knowledge, there's no Fenders with two 8-inch speakers from that era. I could be wrong, but I don't think there are. These amps look amazing. The Premiere logo is really awesome. The two 8-inch speakers are in here. Let me just show you the top panel, which is really cool. Here's the Multivox logo, the power information. Then you've got these wicked Premiere knobs, the volume, tone, and tremolo, which I'll show you. And weirdly, the higher you get, the slower it goes. And then obviously, the more you turn it down, the faster it gets. It's very unusual. And then I love this feature. There's two guitar inputs, boom, boom, and then mic or accordion. And clearly, at this point in history, mic was not abbreviated with MIC. It was abbreviated with MIKE, like your good pal Mike. Look at the photos for the tube layout and information. There's two 8-inch speakers there. There's a foot switch here, which I'm including, which attaches right here, tremolo switch, and turns off and on the tremolo, which I will tell you about, and it's very cool. And that's it. It's a very cool, interesting, woolly sounding amp that gets incredibly gnarly if you want it to, or it can be a nice, quiet kind of practice amp or studio amp or small gig amp. So the Premiere Twin-8, and let's have a listen, see what this thing sounds like. And all these samples are played through various guitars into the Premiere through my pedal board, which is not really on, except for I love reverb, and this amp does not have reverb. And luckily, now you can get all kinds of cool amps from the 50s and 60s that didn't have reverb, but there's all these cool pedals you can get. So I'm using the Strymon Flint. It's got a little bit of reverb on there. I'm not using the delay pedal, except maybe something at the very end. I'll turn it on. I'm not even going to turn on my overdrive pedal. It's just going to stay off. There's my tuner, And this union tube and transistor pedal, it looks like it's on because it's yellow there, but that is actually off. All right, as I mentioned, this Premier amp has a very cool, unusual tremolo circuit. So let's check it out. It's turned on with the foot switch, and it goes from being off to hitting the switch, and you get this set depth. There's no variation for the depth, which is really unusual. Usually there's a depth and a rate control, but on this amp, there's only rate. And so the tremolo is really cool. It sounds like this. And you can, as you turn the knob down, you speed it up, which is weird too. I don't know why they did that. So I'm turning it down now. It gets up to be about this fast. Maybe a little faster. At some point it just sort of cuts off at the very top. That's about as fast as it gets, which is pretty cool. You wouldn't want it any faster than that, probably. And it goes as slow as that. So let's check that out. All right, so this telly in the neck position here with the volume rolled off just a bit is a good example of how this amp starts to break up, but gives you a nice, fairly clean sound, but still like a little edge of compression and crunch that I really like. So yeah, check this out. So this same guitar with the bridge pickup on now, I'll let you hear how that sounds. And this has got the volume backed off again just a little bit. And it's got a really nice, spanky, kind of country, twangy sort of tone, but also still has a woolly kind of edge to it that I don't hear from black panel Fender amps or anything. All right, and this thing gets really gnarly too. It does get pretty loud if you pin the thing. But if you have it cranked, you crank up your guitar. This is with no overdrive. There's a tiny bit of delay on here and the same reverb, and it sounds pretty nasty.